Tera Kota, the Nigerian reggae star, emerged from the vibrant scene of Lagos in the 80s. Born as Gboyega Femi, he made a significant impact with his soulful and rootsy melodies and socially conscious lyrics. Tera Kota splashed into the Nigerian music scene with the 1984 release of his debut album titled Lamentation for Sodom. One of the hardest notes that have been very difficult to crack by music historians and music history writers is finding out the whereabouts of Tera Kota, better known as Gboyega Femi. After making impact in the 1980s, Tera Kota relocated to the United States of America, and ever since then, not much has been known about his whereabouts or what he's been doing. We are still investigating, we are still trying to find out what could have happened and what he's been up to. But up to the moment, nobody has had any specific or significant information about this reggae star. Meanwhile, sit back while we dig back into the music and time of Tera Kota. The city of Lagos, the commercial and entertainment capital of Nigeria, has always been a hotbed for homegrown talents. In the early part of the 80s, the city imbibed the gospel and the music known as pop music, Nigerian pop music, with the likes of Chris Okoti, Fela Kuti, Dtk Falola, G.O.B. dominating the scene. However, in 1984, Tera Kota dropped and splashed into the Nigerian music scene with a reggae album which he called Lamentation for Sodom. This album was the catalyst that changed the face of Nigerian music from the pop-dominated scene to the reggae era, which spanned for more than 10 years, encouraging and developing other artists such as Majek Fashek, Oriswiliki, The Mandators, Peter Sidoton, and several other acts. Yes, there's always been argument. Anytime we put it out that Tera Kota is a pioneer of the reggae movement that created the reggae era of Nigerian music, people do say that reggae music started way back before Tera Kota, and we agree. But the point remains that Tera Kota came out with this rootsy or roots reggae, so to speak, that embodied what the masses needed at that time, a voice to speak for them in the face of the daunting military era, the dictatorship, economic hardship, poverty that prevailed in the land as at then. Frankly speaking, reggae music has always been performed or sung or recorded in Nigeria. Artists like Bongo Sikwe, brands like Cloud 7, Bassy Black, Michael Moore, and some other acts actually did reggae music. But what kind of reggae music are we talking about? Playing one reggae song in a boogie or funk album, or a combination of several kind of songs, didn't portray them as reggae artists in the proper sense of the word. It is like calling Lionel Richie, the American superstar, a reggae artist simply because he made one reggae song called Seller. Even Eddie Murphy, the actor, has a reggae song, but do you call him a reggae artist? That is the question we always ask. But in came Tera Kota, coming out with a well-packaged album, portraying himself as the messenger of the people, a speaker for the masses, and that is where other artists that were hitherto into the pop era started drifting into the new genre, reggae music, that was appropriate and well needed at the time it came, because Nigerians actually needed a voice to speak for them at the moment of difficulties, at the moment of crisis, at the moment of poverty. This is what Tera Kota portrayed, and that is why we still regard him as the pioneer of the Nigerian reggae music era. In 1984, the then 24-year-old Tera Kota made a big splash into the Nigerian music scene when he released this album, this groundbreaking album, Lamentation for Sodom, under the Three Lights Records label. Tetisalalan is the man that took Tera Kota under his wing and gave him all he needed to make this production. And that album was produced by none other than Lemmy Jackson, as at then the biggest producer in Nigerian music history. Lemmy Jackson, the producer, is not known to take things in half measures. That's why he put together a neat team, a tight team that brought out the best of production for this album, starting from the backing vocals of Al Jackson. We know Al Jackson has been associated with Etobo and Rex Williams, with the Doves and several other bands. Shola Damole, we had Willie Roy, another big name in the music scene. Coming down to the production, we had Vincent K on the drums. We have John Paye. John Paye is a Nigerian-born Scottish or British singer, one of the originators of this reggae form that we know as lovers rock in the music world. We also had Frankie F, we had Friday Pozo. We know Friday Pozo associated with the Kenga Superstars and with some other bands. We had Paget King. Paget King is a British keyboardist. Jeffrey Scatterbury, a percussionist who worked with Friday Pozo on the percussion recordings for the album. We had saxophonists, a British trio of Ken Edley, Rick Taylor, and David Seltzer. These are the kind of people that they brought into this production. And the production was in both West, Lagos, and London, giving it the flavor that was really needed to propel this album as a breakthrough album in the reggae music scene in Nigeria. The album Lamentation for Sodom also contains songs like On the Run, Help Me for God's Sake, and the dub version on the side B, Help Me for God's Sake, and also had Know Your God, Nitori Owo, sang in Yoruba. This was an impactful album without any doubts. This album was good. Just take my word for it. This album was just good. Apart from the critical acclaim and acceptance by the people, the album also made commercial impact as it went on to sell more than 500,000 copies, which was equally a good payout in the Nigerian music industry as at then. In 1986, Tera Kota released his second album, or what we would call an EP now, titled Solitude and Shackles, which was more like a tribute to Fela Kuti, the forefront and forerunner in terms of leading the protests against bad governance and poor government and dictatorships across Nigeria and Africa as a whole. This album contains songs like Marching On to Pretoria, Free Fela Now, and Mr. Politicians. And the Riverside also had the dub versions of Mr. Politician, Marching On to Pretoria, and Free Fela Now. This album also made some impact in the Nigerian music scene because, as we said, it was still what we needed at that time to move on and force the government of that time to make changes that would be of benefit to the people. In 1987, Tera Kota released his third album and final album in the Nigerian music scene, titled Peasant Child. Peasant Child contains songs like Peasant Child, the title track, Sodomic Reaction, Shongo, Mr. Politician, Fight It Out, Hypocrite, Scarecrow, Iwarere, Free Mandela, and March On to Pretoria, some of the songs that were already in the Solitude and Shackles album of 1986. This album did not make the impact needed or as much as what Lamentation for Sodom did. However, I continue to do the part of Lamentation by bringing out the issues that affected the masses and the people of Nigeria and Africa in general. Giving an insight to what made him sing the kind of songs he did, Tera Kota, in an interview in 1990, has stated that Nigeria was a good country in the 70s, where there was oil boom and life was high and heady in the 70s, but in the 80s, things have changed, much as it has changed to this day. And that was the reason why, according to him, now the voice of reality has come in form of reggae. We can't continue to sing about love when the stomach is empty. We have to go into the studio to sing something else. With the three albums in place, Tera Kota has cemented its place in the African reggae movement, speaking for the masses across the continent. He also taught campuses, colleges, and played other venues as the need arises, with the message of hope, message of liberation from the shackles of poverty, from the shackles of bad governance. Often backed by the Blue Diamond Band, Tera Kota was all over the place and made his impact before he left Nigeria for the United States of America in the very early days of the 90s. Tera Kota has also, in an interview, alluded to the fact that reggae music is actually African music that originated from Africa. He said that the name itself comes from, that's reggae, the name itself comes from here in the first place, a reggae. This means palace music, and my parental grandfather sang it over a century ago. The rhythm is the same as well as its use to sing praise to the king or to the gods. Now it is chanting down Babylon, or in its own form, chanting down Sodom. 4 years after the release of Lamentation for Sodom, Tera Kota in an interview expressed the same feeling that after all his preaching for 4 years, Nigeria still remains the same and can be likened to Sodom. In fact, it is word that Nigeria is like Sodom because things have not changed. The same condition, the same situation, the same problem still existed by 1988. Little did he know that into the 2000s, Nigeria will still remain the same, and all the preachings have gone down the drain because the successive government has failed to do the needful that will place the people of the country in the rightful places to benefit from the resources that Nigeria is endowed with.
Good morning, Mr. Politician. How are you doing, Konina?
In that same interview, Tera Kota has said that I don't mix with the scarlet ladies of Sodom, alluding that he's keeping himself away from the ladies, or whatever it means, we don't really know. But we don't like digging into the private lives of artists and portray it here. But we do know for a fact that at some point, Tera Kota was in a relationship with a lady that was the vice chairman or vice president of the student union government at Obafemi Awolowo University. But like we said, we don't like digging into the private lives of artists. We present their works, their achievements, their discography, and all they did to entertain us and their creative capabilities. So we are back to the question, where is Tera Kota? We don't know. The last we know is that Tera Kota relocated to the United States of America either very late in the 80s or very early in the 90s. And the last public appearance that we know of is his appearance with Toots Herbert of Toots and the Metal Band backstage in Washington, D.C. So we don't know what has happened over time, where has been, what he's been doing. We can only suspect that he has moved into some other businesses or some other human endeavor, but we are still digging. When we have that information, we'll let you know on this podcast. But if you know ahead of us, kindly let us know in the comments section so that the fans worldwide will also benefit from such information. So it is a wrap on the story of Tera Kota, the Nigerian reggae star. I hope we have been able to give you the much we know about him, and we are still expecting responses to where he is. That's the question we asked from the onset. Where is Tera Kota? If you like what we've been doing, kindly click on the subscribe button. If you're just listening without subscribing, we have a whole lot coming up as far as Nigerian music history is concerned on Music in My Ears TV on YouTube. Thank you for staying tuned. Until next episode. Peace out.